Hello everybody, and welcome back to Cooking with Grandma. And today we've got a recipe that I've kind of made up. I made it up as I went. It's kind of like if you've watched all my other videos, it's kind of like my fruit explosion muffins, but I'm doing it that way, but I'm making it into more of a cake. You take your basic muffin recipe and you add what you want to it, the fruit wise, and that's what I'm going to do today. But instead of making it in the muffins, I'm going to put it in my 9x13 cake pan, and I'm going to double the recipe because the recipe that I have is for the muffins and it's for 12, so I'm going to be doubling it so I can get a full 9x12 cake pan out. So the first thing we're going to do, and we'll heat it up the oven, and I've greased my pan. Okay, now what's nice about this is that you don't need two bowls. You don't need a wet bowl and a dry bowl like you do for usual muffins. This muffin recipe, you make it in stages in the same bowl, so it's nice. You don't have to waste dirty two bowls. So the first thing we do, we're going to beat the butter until it's creamy. Now it calls for half a cup, so again I'm using 1 cup because I am doubling it. I want a nice big cake for my family to have. And if y'all can think of a title for this cake, that's what I come up with, and I don't know if that doesn't sound very interesting and enticing. If you can come up with, leave it in the comments for me, because I could use a title. I was working on it, trying to think of what I could call this, but other than muffin cake, I haven't really come up with something solid. So if anybody knows a good name for this, let me know in the comments, and I'll see what I can do about using that. So we're going to cream this. Now it's very soft margarine. This is like it's this kind of margarine. It's a tub margarine. It's not butter, and it's not in a stick form. So it's already real soft. So just give it a good stir, make it a little creamier, and there you go. We're done. So now to that, we're going to beat in the sugar until it's pale and fluffy. So it calls for 1 cup of sugar. Now it says to use this depending on the sweetness of your fruit. Because I'm using a variety of fruits and I'm doubling this recipe, I'm still going to go ahead and put I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more than a cup. I'm not going to put a whole cup of, it calls for 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to put a cup and maybe a cup and a half, because I have enough fruit to make it sweet. So there's half, and 1 1¼ and 1 1/2. There we go. That's what you judge by your sugar, by how much sugar you put in, by how sweet and ripe your fruits are. Now I'm using a combination of fruits. I'll get to when I show you, when I get to that step, and you can see why I'm not adding more sugar, because the different kinds of fruit all have their own amounts of sugar in them. So it's not going to be an overly sweet dessert. We don't want muffins to be real sweet, except chocolate chip, and then it's okay. So we're going to stir this in, and you can see, I hope that's showing it good. There we go. You can see how light that looks. It looks a lot lighter than the butter did. There's the butter before, there's the butter after the sugar was added. So you can see that it's a bit lighter. And it's nice and fluffy, and when you stir it, you'll feel the sugar melting in there. It doesn't feel gritty. You'll know it's nice and mixed up. So now then we add the eggs, and we have to make them 1 at a time. The recipe calls for 2, I need 4. So we're going to put 1 at a time in, which is kind of like a pain in the butt because I'm kind of an impatient person when it comes to this. I just want to get it done. But in some recipes you have to, especially baking, you kind of have to follow it the way it's told, or things just get mucky. So there's 1 egg. There we go. And if you don't beat it all the way in, I mean, you can beat it up so you don't see any more yolk and stuff, but if you don't get it all mixed in, you're going to put another egg in, so eventually it'll get all mixed in. You don't want to worry about that. It'll still get incorporated. Most of it should be beat in there. And again, you can use the mixer for this. I'm just using the wooden spoon. It's good. It's just as easy, and because right now it's just butter and sugar, so it's soft. So you can get it cleanly mixed in with just a spoon. There we go. That's the 3rd egg. And here's our fourth egg, and I was very excited today when I went out and fed my chickens. They're starting to lay again. They stopped pretty much the whole winter. We have 2 chickens. We have a brown one and a black one. The brown one lays brown eggs, and funny about it is the black one lays blue eggs. She's what you call an Easter egg chicken. She hasn't started laying yet, but if the brown one's laying, she'll start soon. Hopefully. Well, now I just want 4 fresh eggs today. Okay, so after you get the eggs in, we're going to beat in the vanilla, the baking powder, and the salt. So we're going to put a teaspoon, so we're going to use 2 teaspoons of vanilla. There we go. I'm just going to get my spoon out here. And there's, I want to test something because I always tell you, use the cap. Now this is a bigger cap, so that's why I wanted to put it to the test, because a regular size bottle of vanilla, it's 1 cap is 1 teaspoon. This is a large size vanilla, so 1 cap is 2 teaspoons. So there's your 2 teaspoons. I just wanted to, before I just dumped it in, I wanted to just measure that one. Because I got a great big 500 ml jar of vanilla. I use it so much, we just bought a big one. So now I have to put in my baking powder, which is 2 teaspoons, or in this case 4. I will put the recipe in the description box below as written. And if you want to double it to make a bigger batch, if you want to make this into muffins, go right ahead. If you want to make it into this crazy cake that I'm making, that's cool too. Just however you want to do it. And but I write it as written and not double it, so not the way I'm actually doing it. And we need 1/4 teaspoon of salt, so we need 1/2 teaspoon. I hope you all try my recipes. They're pretty easy, budget friendly. This, what I'm making today, is because I have bananas that are kind of, okay, they're ready for banana bread. And I had a couple of apples that were getting a little soft and mushy, so they're not good for eating. The strawberries, the same thing. They were getting to the edge where they were okay, but you probably shouldn't, you don't want to just eat them. And the blueberries are okay, but I'm going to stuff them in there too because I have them. So we're going to mix all this in. Get that nicely mixed in. With muffins, you don't want to overmix because they'll come out with air holes. Now, because this is a cake-ish muffin, you can go ahead and mix it a little bit more. So there, it's nice and smooth and creamy. So we've done that. Now it says to mix, they call for blueberries because this is a basic blueberry muffin, and it says to mash them. No, we're not going to mash them. If you mash them, you're going to have purple batter. You're not going to have a good flavor. So what I'm going to do is, because I am making this with a bunch of different fruits instead of just blueberries, there's my apples. I cut up 4, not too big apples. They weren't real small. They weren't real big. 4 apples, and now I've got 3 bananas that are kind of soft. I'm going to give them a rough chop. I would normally, if I was making banana bread, I would mash them, squish them down with a fork, but it's not banana bread. It's muffin cake-ish, whatever we're going to call it. So I'm just going to roughly chop them. And see, a lot of the sugar is natural sugar because of the fruit. So that's why you don't want to add your granulated sugar, because the fruit has sugars in them, and it's all natural. I mean, it's still sugar, but it doesn't react in your body the same way. Like if you're diabetic and you can't eat a candy bar, but you can have an apple and a banana, even though it's got sugar in it, it's natural sugars and it's okay. Your body will be able to process it properly. And it's not sugar. So what I've done here is I've just roughly chopped, you know, just kind of sliced them and then quartered each piece. So I got 2 pretty good sized bananas. I'm going to put those in. And there we go. And to that, I'm going to add some of my blueberries. I'm just going to put these in whole. They'll kind of break up as it cooks. They're all good blueberries. They're all different sizes. I'm not measuring. I'm just dumping in until it looks good. It looks like, oh yeah, that's enough. You can measure. You can put like, and now for the recipe it calls for a cup. So you want to go ahead and put a cup in. Go right ahead. That's about a cup. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And then I've got some, like I said, I've got some strawberries that we bought. They're getting a little soft. So I'm going to pretty, not real small chop, but you don't want great big chunks. I'm going to go ahead and chop these guys up and put those in. So this is a pretty easy recipe, and it's, I mean, if you don't have the fruit on hand, that's about the only thing you'd have to go out and buy, because you should have eggs and flour and sugar and milk and butter, all the other essentials, baking powder, vanilla. Those are the basics that you need to bake anything, whether it's cakes, muffins, pies, cookies, you know, doesn't matter. You pretty much need those ingredients. So you can call this fruit cake. That's cool. It's not the kind of fruit cake that comes in the loaf pan things that like you could use for a door stopper. If you've ever seen them, like people sell them at Christmas time, and they're usually so hard that, like, I don't know, I've tried it. No, whoever out there likes them, that's all right. That's your choice. I mean, to each his own, right? But it's just got to be a preference. They just got, I think part of the problem is it's got that kind of fruit. It's not real fruit. It's like the citrus, the peel, and it's just, I don't know. It's just got a weird taste to me. So this is fruit cake with real fruit. So it's fruit cake muffins, muffin cake. And all right, I'm going to do this last strawberry here, and we're going to put those guys in. There was about 6 pretty large strawberries I'm going to put in here. So now I'm going to mix that all in. I think I might have to go to my bigger bowl. Let me see how flat this goes when I stir it all in, because I still have to add the flour. And it's going to be a big bowl full. Might be all right. It's going down. Once you just get things mixed together, it's good. Okay, so now the next step would be to mix. This is the only part you do a little bit separate. It's not separate. It's not using a separate bowl, but you mix your flour with your milk alternately. You just measure out your flour and measure out your milk, and you put a little flour, stir it up, milk, stir it, milk, flour, and back and forth until you get to the end. So we need 2 cups. So yeah, I'm gonna need my bigger bowl. I am definitely gonna need my great big bowl here, because it's 4 cups of flour. There's no way 4 cups of flour plus a cup of milk is gonna fit in that bowl full of fruit. So I know you can't see through this bowl. I apologize for that, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you when it's mixed in, when I pour it into the pan, what it's like. There we go. Okay. Set that aside. So now I'm going to measure. So it's 4 cups of flour I need. So I'm going to put 2 cups at a time in. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1, 1/4, 1/2, and 3/4, and 2. Make it just do half at a time. So there's half the flour. I'm going to stir that in. And it is 1/2 a cup of milk, so I'm using a whole cup. So I'll put a 1/2 cup at a time. And to get this good and mixed, hoping you're picking it up enough, you can see that. Just mix it in. You'll see it when it's all mixed in when I put it into the cake pan. I will show you the finished product. You want it mixed in, but you don't want to overmix. You don't want any air holes. You don't want to overbeat muffin batter or cake batter, but especially muffin batter. Okay, so I got that, and I'm going to put half the milk in and give that a good stir. You always want to finish with the liquids. If you're alternating milk and flour, always do the milk at the end, because if it's real thick and gloppy from the flour, the milk will smooth everything out. Alright, I'm going to put my other cup of flour in. Or sorry, 2 cups of flour. 1, 1/2, 3/4, and a cup. There we go. Flour's done. And mix that all in. And I'm really glad I decided to go with the bigger bowl, because this bowl is like 3/4 of the way full. and I'm done. I may just have to add that little bit of milk, but it would never have mixed properly in my regular bowl that I use. You see how thick now it is and kind of clumpy? Because you don't want to overmix it, so it's going to stay that way. The flour's getting mixed in, but it's not a lot. So now when you add the rest of the milk, that's going to make it a creamy batter again. I'm going to get scrape down the sides of your bowl, make sure there's no flour or anything remaining on the sides. You just turn it, fold it over. You just turn and toss it. Just mix it in. So when you go to the bottom, you don't want to see any white. You don't want to see any flour anywhere in your bowl. And you don't want to see puddles, like there I got a puddle of milk there. You don't want to see that. You want it all nice and incorporated. Now there we go. Now if these were muffins, they would take 25 minutes or so to bake, but because it's cake muffins, I'm gonna still set the timer at 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's gonna probably take a little bit longer because there's more to cook. So we're gonna just start off slow and keep checking it. So now you're gonna see it coming out of the bowl, and you're gonna see how nice and creamy it is. And it's all gonna go in there real nice. Just come right out. I'm just scrape it with my wooden spoon, but I'm going to take my rubber scraper now and get all that extra out of there, all that chunks of fruit, and we're gonna get it all out of the bowl. And then we'll just smooth it out, pop it in the oven, and there you go. Now one more little thing I am going to do with this, just to make it mine, because I've been kind of winging it and inventing this recipe. There's one more thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to get a little bowl and put some sugar and some cinnamon, and I'm going to make a cinnamon sugar topping. Just going to put about 1/4 of a cup of sugar and a teaspoon or so of cinnamon. Give it a little stir. Just a teaspoon. You don't want it overpowering cinnamon, but cinnamon is really good. And there we go, cinnamon sugar. This is good for toast. You just take sugar and cinnamon like this, put it on your buttered toast in the morning. Wow, good. Okay, so now I'm just going to cover the top, just like this. Just take a spoonful at a time and sprinkle it over, getting the whole thing covered. I mean, if this isn't enough, I can make more, but I'm thinking it's just going to be just, look at that, 1/4 cup and a teaspoon work perfectly. So that's what I'm going to put in the description with the recipe. This is optional. You don't have to put this topping on. It's just going to give it a little bit of extra kick and a little bit extra flavor when you're done. So there it is. I'm going to put this beautiful looking muffin cake mix into the oven. Set my timer for 25 minutes. And I'm thinking it's probably going to take closer to 30, but we're going to check it in 25 just to make sure. So I'll see y'all back here in just a little bit. Alrighty, and we're back with Cooking with Grandma, and I'm finished with my fruit cake, muffin cake sort of thing. We're looking for a real good working title, and this is what it looks like, all nice. And this is when I put the cinnamon sugar topping. I am going to cut into a piece of it and put it on a plate to show you how nice it's going to look inside with all that fruit running all the way through it. I did have to cook it for 30 minutes. 25 was not enough. I gave it 30, and it might even need a couple more, but yeah, it's going to need a couple more. I'll just put it in there. But anyway, you can see, oh no, definitely going to need a few more minutes. Let me just try to cut a piece that I can show you what the fruit is all look like in here. It's going to be a little bit hard to do because it's not quite done. I'm going to have to stick her back in the oven for another probably 5 minutes or so. Yeah, I'm going to have to stick it back in the oven before I can show you. This is what it looks like on top, but it's not done enough in the inside to cut it. So let me just come right back to you in about 5 minutes. Alrighty, sorry about that delay. It did take 30 minutes, and now I did test it with a toothpick to see, and it came out clean, but in the area I tested was closer to the edge, so I guess I needed to go more in the middle to test it. That's okay, it just went back in the oven. And here's what it looks like. Here's a piece that's all cut, and you can see all the fruit going through it. There you go, you can see the blueberries and the strawberries. Bananas not so much, you can't see them because, you know, they kind of melt away in the batter, but you'll taste it. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. Leave me a comment if you like it, if you've tried it, and if you can come up with a good name besides muffin cake, muffin fruit cake, I suppose I could call it, or fruit explosion muffin cake, there, you know, something like that. But this is what it looks like. And don't forget the cinnamon sugar topping on top is optional. I just made that up as I went. So enjoy, and be sure to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Bye-bye.